unlike any other books we can think of, people often pull a verse out of context and fail to read around the passage to find out what's really going on. What are the dangers of doing this, and what should we be doing, Dan?
Well, I like your question, but I want to object to it a little bit. And the objection is people do it to everybody all the time. So as a preacher and a professor, people say, well, you said this. I said, well, I did say that, but I said it was a bad idea. I said this. I said, some people think all police are violent and corrupt. So you said all policemen are violent and corrupt. I said, that's a mistake. Don't quote me that way. Yeah. So people do it all the time, and they do it, to a lesser degree to anybody and everybody. And so it's human nature to grab a statement and not quite pay attention fully. Sometimes it can be innocent, realistically. The real danger in quoting snippets of the Bible is that we make them narrow out what the Bible's saying and reduce the Bible to maybe a snippet of a theological idea or moral tale. So an easy example of that is, David fights Goliath in 1 Samuel 17. And we think, okay, David was really brave, which he was. It's true. He was really brave. And that's why God favored him and he became king of Israel. And if you fight your giants, great things will happen. But the passage before that is God sending Samuel to David to anoint him as king. And God chose him to be king and equipped him to be king in chapter 16. And now in chapter 17, God is introducing him to Israel. And then in chapter 18, we're going to find out that not everybody wanted a new king to be introduced. And then we understand that it's not just a matter of, fighting a great victory and then everything goes your way. Fight a great victory and people may hate you for it, which is really important to know in many of our lives, unfortunately. So you got to read 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 together. Or another way to look at it would be, I mentioned Abraham earlier, in Genesis, well, the book of Romans. Let's just do the book of Romans for a second. Paul in Romans 5 says that where sin abounds, grace abounded all the more. So then people say, oh, that's awesome. So I can have, the more I sin, the more grace I get. Well, there's one sense of the word in which that's true because God can forgive anybody, but then, I want lots of grace, so I'll sin a lot. And then Paul, immediately after understanding, he knows that could be misconstrued that way, says, so shall we sin the more that grace may abound? May it never be. No way. That's my translation of it. No way. That would be terrible. You're united to Christ. You died to Christ. You died with Christ. You died to sin. You've been raised to life with Christ. No, you're now weapons of righteousness. So he has to say to give us the scope of the gospel that where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. We need to hear that. But if we just take that verse, we'll completely miss the idea that grace abounding is not a license to sin at all. Mm-hmm. And, we know that from reading the whole Bible. So that's one example. We could look at, obviously, many others.